from the new recording lair located deep beneath the Wine and Spirit store in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
You're listening to the Masonic Lite podcast.
Studio 665 presents Masonic Lite podcast. This show is recorded by Masons, for Masons, and is for entertainment purposes only. And please, no wagering.
This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. And now, here's your host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Episode 74.
74?
Wow, 74.
If we were on the radio, the FCC would have taken us off well before now.
Whale before.
So welcome, everybody. We have a great show lined up. We can't believe we're actually talking to our guests because after 2 hours of trying to get the audio, we came in at 5 o'clock to get this crap right, and we failed. So
We did it.
So our guest today is a world-famous author and cartographer.
I like that.
Yeah.
World famous.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Are there any famous cartographers in this generation?
Yeah, there is. Jean-Louis Riault from Montreal, Quebec. He's like the Obi-Wan. And I'm his apprentice.
Ooh.
I love it.
There's always two.
Use the map, Luke.
And I'm going to screw your name up. It's author Michael Karpovage. Close?
Very good.
There we go. Michael. And he is the author of Crown of Serpents and the following two novels.
Which are Map of Thieves and The Skull of Disguises.
Ooh.
These are three books in the Tanunda mystery series.
So I've read one.
I read one. I'm reading one.
I think we all got through Crown of Serpents. At least most of us, Tim.
Some of us read the Cliff Notes.
That's great to hear.
Oh,
But
Tim, if I remember,
It's on order from Amazon. I apologize.
if I remember correctly, you had to ask us about what he wrote.
Exactly. It was still in my cart on Amazon when I looked at that. I went, oh crap!
But Mike, you were referred to us by one of our previous guests, Chief Bill Harvey, and he is a super fan of yours.
Yes.
So, hey, well,
Strong South Carolina Mason down there. Georgia.
Savannah.
Actually, Georgia.
Savannah.
Yes, Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, he read all three books, and Miss Rita Harvey 2.0 read all three books, and she loved them too.
Shout out to Miss Rita. There it is.
And so just today, he left a 5-star review on Crown of Serpents, so very pleased to hear that.
Yeah, we did invite him to come, and he wanted to, but he had a conflict. He's very nice and folksy, but the truth is, he is in demand. He travels all over the United States giving important talks about public safety and active shooters, and
Yep.
he's a great man.
Yep, sure is. I think I recently did a lecture at Clinton Lodge number 54 in Savannah, and Dan Leisure used to be a Savannah police officer too for many years, and I think they both served together. And I think through Dan put me in touch with Bill, and it went from there.
Very cool. So what we're going to do first, just out of tradition, nobody really likes it, but we just can't help ourselves. We go quickly around the table. We'll start with Tim. What have you been up to, anything Masonically, the past couple weeks?
Actually, the last couple of weeks have been very busy. Samuel C. Perkins, Royal Arch Chapter number 209, had one of our hosts, one of our sponsors, Sean Spinagle, come and do a program on cigars and a cigar night. But it was one of the best attended meetings we've ever had.
Awesome.
We sat in the parking lot, and literally the timer on the parking lot lights went out, and we thought, okay, it's time to go home. But that was a great night. I was asked to participate in the Valley of Harrisburg scholarship review. Apparently, all of the valleys in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction give out a fairly significant scholarship to people related to folks in Scottish Rite, and spent a better part of a day reviewing those, and I was
That's tough to
amazed. It was hard, let me tell you.
It is. I did it for our lodge.
There's a cut line, and it's like, man.
Yeah.
The first several, whenever you get close to that line, it's tough. Mm-hmm. That was really tough. We had at Eureka West Shore Lodge number 302, we actually had 30 show up at our past masters dinner, which is amazing, especially for our spring meeting. We have one in the spring and one in the fall. The one in the fall, we hear from the incoming master about his program and stuff, and that's kind of fun, and a lot of guys show up for that. But the spring one was just amazing to see that many guys come up. We had a great night of fellowship. And then this past weekend, I actually spent some time up in Smithport, which is way up. It's like right on the New York border.
Wake me up when Tim's done.
I'm sorry. You asked me what I did Masonically, so but I got to actually talk about the podcast there, and there were some folks up there that had listened to the podcast, and so got to put a plug in for that.
Do they have the internet in that part of Pennsylvania?
They finally got internet up there. It's dial-up still, but anyway, so that's what I've done over the last couple of weeks.
Larry, you had an exciting couple weeks.
Yeah, I have, but none of it's been involving Freemasonry, other than the fact that I did get my most, and Josh and I both did most excellent Master Mason degree in York Rite last week, which was a great experience, actually.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And that's it, because I haven't gone anywhere to do anything in the past 2 weeks because I've been too busy.
You came to my tall cedar breakfast?
Yes, I did. Well, that was a fun thing. That was excellent. We had a huge attendance for that. Overwhelming. They couldn't serve us.
Jack.
Help me. Not a whole lot. I missed the most excellent master degree at my chapter, where these two guys were received and accepted, I think. Yeah, most excellent master masons. Yes, and I also missed my induction into Tall Cedars because I was attending to my necessary avocations. But we're stoked. We're still sort of basking in the afterglow of the George Washington Bible event. Just Michael, for you, we had George Washington's Masonic Initiation Bible here at Ephrata Lodge, and we had 115 people in our lodge for that night. That was just absolutely astounding, and to hear we're still just sort of vibrating from that. But anyway, that's about all I had going on. I've got Grotto coming up this Sunday. So by the time you hear this, that will already have happened, and we will need bail bonding.
Whiskey tasting.
Yes, whiskey tasting with George Reppert, who will be initiated at that meeting. So, yeah.
I've been kind of busy. I had we just conferred the select Master Mason degree on a couple candidates in council, and Tall Cedars, where I'm also in charge. We had a Easter breakfast. 20 people RSVP'd and 30 showed up.
Wow. That helps with catering.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, and I think some people are still waiting for the breakfast to arrive, but it was a good time, just really slow service. And last night was...
Are we going to ask for advertising from those people?
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
And you went to PGA.
Oh, yeah. I was at the Pennsylvania...
I forgot about that, yes.
Pennsylvania Grotto Association up in... Where was that?
That was in Harrisburg.
Yeah. That was fun. Not really. I mean, it was okay.
The after parties are always
The guys who planned it worked very hard to make it a fun event for the people that came.
Doc did a great job.
Yes.
Last night
Just in case he's a listener, we wanted to say.
I don't know. Well, last night I had Tall Cedars. We brought in two of three candidates showed up.
Oh, that hurt.
I hear you ended up on cleanup detail.
I did. Well, you got to do what you got to do. Alrighty. And Josh, anything going on?
No, I was, at the degree with Larry, and I had an officer meeting, but other than that, no.
Mike, have you done anything in anything Masonic the past couple of weeks? Are you busy authoring and cartographing?
Yeah, I was busy. I did some Masonic stuff, of course. I did a lecture at the Augusta Research Lodge in Augusta, Georgia. That was last Friday. They had a great turnout. 25 Masons and their wives, sold out of books, so I was very appreciative of that. Before that, I spoke at the Alpharetta Masonic Lodge, number 235 in Alpharetta, Georgia. Excellent turnout there. Brothers loved it. Got another invite to speak at another lodge, for both of these lectures. That's what usually happens. And coming up, Monday, April 29th, I'll be going to Georgiana Davis Lodge number 338 in Trussville, Alabama, to do my lecture. My lecture's on 15 stories of enemy Freemasons saving each other in times of battle, facing death. And I go from the Revolutionary War up to World War II stories. So there you go.
That's very cool. Well, we look forward to maybe hearing one of those later in our show. Josh, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with author Michael Karpovage.
At the Historic Smithton Inn of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, we're pleased to serve the latest creations from Weathered Vineyard Winery, along with spirits from Thistlefinch Distillery in Lancaster, all to be experienced in the tasting room of a beautifully restored 18th century bed and breakfast. Cigars by D&S Cigar are available for your enjoyment in the courtyard. The Historic Smithton Inn is convenient to Lancaster County's most interesting attractions. Just minutes from the Ephrata Cloister and the Green Dragon Farmers Market. And a short drive can get you to charming Lidditz, thriving downtown Lancaster, as well as Hershey, Bird in Hand, and Intercourse. Or Valley Forge in Gettysburg. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or an active vacation full of sightseeing and attractions, the Historic Smithton Inn will be a welcoming oasis from everyday life, one that you'll want to visit again and again. Stop in and visit at 900 West Main Street in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, or check out our website at historicsmithtoninn.com, or simply call us at 717-733-6094. Just ask for Pastmaster Dave.
Welcome back. Our guest tonight is Michael Karpovage. But in the coal regions of Pennsylvania, it's Karpovage. So, but anyway, whatever. Michael is a renowned author and cartographer, which I think we kind of said earlier. And let me tell you just a tiny little bit about Michael. He was raised as a Master Mason in 2005 at the Fidelity Habasco Lodge, which is number 51 in Ithaca, New York. And he was junior warden before he moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And for some unusual, maybe I shouldn't say this, for some reason or other, he's not affiliated with any lodge in Georgia. But he does, he's on a lot of speaking engagements throughout the South and lectures and so forth and book signings to a whole lot of different lodges. And I guess I could start off by saying, why aren't you a member of a Georgia lodge? But I won't do that. And anyway, Michael, as I said, is a great...
I told you he was going to tell you what you're going to say, right?
Jeez. Anyway, but what I wanted to mention, too, was that we are currently, I think some of us have read the book already.
We covered that too, Larry.
Yeah, we covered that already, but Crown of Serpents is one of your great books. And again, Map of Thieves is the other book. And also, too, I'll find it, Skull of Disguises.
All right, Larry, take a break. We're
take a break.
Yeah, we're done.
But one of the questions I want to ask you, we know about the three books and the affiliation relationship to Freemasonry, but you also wrote another book called Flashpoint Quebec. But
yes.
That doesn't show up anywhere in any. What's that all about?
So that was my first attempt to be the next Tom Clancy.
Oh, well, what happened? The United States go to war with
Fan
Canada
fiction?
or something
What?
like that? Or?
As actually, it was based on some true history about Quebec trying to secede their province from Canada, and they voted on that. I think it was in the 80s, and they were like 1% away from actually seceding. Mm-hmm. So they had they had a rebellious movement with the Quebecers, wanted their own French province. So based on kind of that historical, incident there, I concocted a story where it was a NATO alliance where Canada called on the United States, in particular the 10th Mountain Division, up at Fort Drum, New York, which is right across the border. Because, fictionally in the book, the Quebecers did succeed, and they captured tanks, some Canadian Army tanks, and there was an actual rebellion in one of the cities. So it was an urban combat type of Tom Clancy novel, and that was my first attempt at it. Got it published, and your first book, sometimes you improve in your writing as the years go by. So I kind of took it off the market. It's still out there. You can find it on Amazon, and I think someone sold it for like $300. Some third party.
Whoa!
That's such a rare book. Anyways, so it was my first attempt. It was for the military history market. And from there, it was just such a narrow market that I wanted to switch to a more general audience. And that's why I went into the mystery thrillers.
So it's kind of like Brexit before Brexit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think they stole your idea, but Super Troopers 2.
That's right.
You talk about you were the precursor to Tom Clancy. Larry actually gave Dan Brown the ideas that he made all the money on, too.
Pete can attest to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was affiliated with the Georgia Lodge for just a couple years until past Grand Master McDonald made a mess of Georgia Freemasonry with his edict. So a lot of us didn't agree how he inserted his personal religion into his edict, and a lot of us resigned out of protest, out of principle, and I was one of those. And it took me a couple of years to come back to Georgia lodges and start visiting again. I was pissed off, and like a lot of guys were pissed off. So I'm back at visiting Georgia lodges, and I tell you what, karma has hit McDonald.
Yes,
he's pretty much gone, and hopefully that'll get the bylaw will get changed and things will go back to normal.
So you were now, because you're a New York Mason, you were able to kind of retreat back home and stay a Mason. But
exactly, yeah, I was always affiliated with my home lodge in New York. Brother in good standing there, and then I affiliated with Georgia Lodge. Just resigned out of that lodge, but I maintained two, dual lodges at the time. So I'm officially back with my New York lodge. I've always been with my New York lodge.
So, give us a little a summary about your series. Like I said, we heard about this from Chief Harvey, and one of the things he said was, you would really like this if you're like former law enforcement, former military, like it's a guy's book for guys. That's the kind of way he explained it. Yeah. And he said the thing that he was most happy about was the research that you do into little things. So, and it's stuff that makes me nuts when I watch television. Every police show, before somebody goes to fire a gun, they always have to rack back and load a shell, even if it's a revolver. Like,
I know. So, they're definitely books for guys, especially law enforcement, military. More on the conservative side, very patriotic. Guys who are patriots, guys who love our country, respect LEOs in the military. And that's the target audience I wanted to go after, because my main character is an Army vet, 10th Mountain Division. That character of Jake Tanunda actually came out of Flashpoint, Quebec. He was a minor character in that book, so I kind of carried him over to his own series. So he was a combat vet. And then he turns military historian and works for the Military History Institute out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And so people who love military history will love my books because I go deep into the research of military history. And part of that research is I interview police officers, state troopers, military guys, and I ask them the questions to try and make the books realistic as possible. So they'll give me terminology that they use in the field, or they'll give me little, secrets about police procedure. So they're like Bill said, these little details I try to insert in the book, and guys like him will pick up on that and they'll appreciate that. So for like in Crown of Serpents, it took me 6 months to set up a tour of the Seneca Army Depot, the abandoned military base in Seneca County, where the setting of the book is. I had to go through the local IDA, and then finally I got the interview with the chief of security, the Army chief of security, and he took me around for an hour and a half personal tour of the entire base. And we actually went into what was once the highly secure Q area where they supposedly stored the nukes and the special weapons. So he took me all around, and I interviewed him for the full hour and a half, and I got like some of the history on the depot, and asked him questions about rumors and legends of the base and things like that. So just being persistent and trying to learn the details about different techniques out there. I think it really shows. It shows in the book. People realize there's a lot of research put into it and appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I noticed it right away.
Yeah, and it's interesting having lived in Western New York and been through that area that used to be my sales territory. So it's a very unique part of the United States, and its history is very unique because of its Native American population that's still there, still owns the land. It's still tribal affiliations, whatever the right nomenclature is for that. But it's a very interesting read from that respect, in that they still strive to maintain that separateness while still being sort of a part of the United States, but not being, it's a really delicate balance that they have to walk. It's kind of neat.
It is. And when I wrote the book, I guess it was 2004, I started the book. It officially came out in 2009. So I was living up there at the time in Waterloo, and I was a volunteer firefighter and commuting to my art director job at an ad agency up in Rochester. So I knew, new to the area, I started tapping into the local politics, and there was a lot of animosity with the locals and the Indian tribes, especially with the land and the broken treaties, and them wanting to put a casino in, and gas stations, and them not paying taxes like New York State's citizens. So I reflected all that local politics into Crown of Serpents, and then one of the main villain is Alex Nero, and he's a billionaire casino magnate out of the Onondaga Nation, and his character was built after his character was modeled after a real casino owner who was an Indian. So even within the Indian nations, there's animosity between the tribes, and like the Mohawk, like some of his thugs that he employs, the Mouth guy,
right?
The Mouth, he came from the Mohawk, like a drug smuggling ring and a human smuggling ring across the St. Lawrence River. So even within, you have kind of a conflict within the tribe. So again, all that's built into the subplot, kind of the behind the backstory of the book. But again, like as a volunteer firefighter, though, going out on fire calls and EMT calls, I took those details and that experience, and those, like the one character in the beginning of the book, when there was, when they when Jake was in the swamp. I was in that actual swamp. And, when the firefighters come into that scene, I kind of put myself as the captain, and he's berating one of the other firefighters who's a racist little, piece of crap. And there's guys out there in the fire department just like that. They hate Indians. So these are real life experiences that I popped into the book.
So on the Masonic side, you go out of your way. I mean, the book starts out by taking American history and folding into it the Masonic component, which is absolutely lacking in every history book, every biography. I read a complete biography of Harry Truman. There's no mention of his being a Mason. That's ridiculous, right? So I respect the fact that you are drawing that out and pulling Masonic history into what happened back then. How did you come to that point where you saw that this is not being talked about?
Well, there's another component, the Native American component, and the Native Americans who were Freemasons on both sides of the Revolutionary War, and of course continuing into present day. And I think you masterfully brought that out as well.
Right. And these are. So let me backtrack. When I started Crown of Serpents, I wanted to do the next Clive Cussler adventure novel, right? Because it was based on rumors that there was an underground river linking Seneca and Cuba Lake. So I thought, okay, who would know about that but the Iroquois Indians? And that's when I became a Mason in 2005. And I came across that Masonic battlefield incident where one enemy Mason saved another. And once I became a Mason and researched that incident, I incorporated that into the book, and the plot just went from there. Because I was dealing with real, true historical figures. So it all snowballed. And then now my core audience was Masons, and they appreciated this history that, a lot of Masons don't know about. So not only is it for the general public, but it's also for Masons. Then you have, because it's like the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. But my books are rated R, if you will. So they're adventurous, they're mystery thrillers, they're entertaining, but they're also highly educational for the history, and especially for Masons. And out of these 3 books, I get calls from guys who became Masons based on them reading these books, which are fiction, but they learned about how Masons treat each other, what their core values are.
Well, the books are fiction, but the Masonic component that you build into it is not necessarily fiction, right? That's correct. Those people were Masons, and they did those things because they were Masons. So there's a component.
So in the beginning of Crown of Serpents, it takes you back to 1779 and that battlefield incident, and I did the research on witnesses on both sides of that fight. And this is what I talk about in the lecture. Is that Chief Joseph Grant was allied with the British. And he was the first Native American on record to become a Freemason. He became a Mason in 1776 in London, England. He was given his apron by King George III himself. Okay, so he's on one side of the fight, allied with the British. And then you have Lieutenant Thomas Boyd, an American Continental Army scout who was taken prisoner. He's about to lose his life. He's about to get a tomahawk to the skull and scalped and dismembered. And he knew that was coming. And what did he do? He knew of Brandt's reputation as a Mason, and he threw up that grand hail sign of distress as his last resort. And what did Brandt do? His enemy. He protected him.
Right.
He said, he's under my protection. And so that whole incident I opened the book with. It's like in the thick of battle, and it ends with the grand hail sign and the protection. And then you jump to the present day and how that past incident is revealed in the present day through different clues, the discovery of this journal of Thomas Boyd and what have you. But for readers that are interested in that full story of Brant Boyd, in the back of the book, and also on my website, karpovagecreative.com, I have the article that I wrote that was published by the Scottish Rite Research Society out of DC in their newsletter. It's an 8-page article. It's there for free. And that gives you the full story of how, what Boyd did, how he screwed up, how he got ambushed, how he was saved, what his ultimate fate was, how he was tortured to death in one of the most heinous murder deaths in American military history. So these are value-added things for the readers.
So I think we want to take a break for a minute just to catch our breath, because this is awesome and we want to keep going on it. But
when we come back, Michael, you told me a little bit of a story about your grandfather, and I'd like to get into that when you come back. Would that be good?
Yes, that would be good. Not my grandfather, someone else's grandfather, but I'll share that story.
Oh, okay,
sure.
Okay. We'll be right back. Why choose George J. Grove & Sons for your next home improvement project? At George J. Grove & Sons, we've built our reputation on quality and trust for more than 50 years. From planning to materials to installation, George J. Grove promises a home improvement experience second to none. Whether your goal is reducing energy costs, decreasing maintenance, updating curb appeal, or simply increasing the value of your home, the George J. Grove team will recommend and provide solutions that stand the test of time. Call 717-393-0859 for an estimate, or visit us at georgejgrove.com.
And we're back with episode 74 here. And for you listeners that are getting are a little bit interested now in buying the book, you do have a chance. If you go to Masonic Lite podcast.com, masoniclite.com, it's masoniclite.com. That's my website. I know what it is. You can click on a link and you can enter to win. Michael is giving away the whole trilogy to one lucky listener.
Can I win?
No, you are not eligible.
I ordered too soon.
Yeah, I don't know why you're not eligible, but other contests say that if you work for the company, you're not eligible.
I hate your rules.
Yeah,
really.
Rules.
So, you're not eligible, but a lucky listener will be eligible to win. So what we're going to do is we're going to take entries for about a week and a half, and on the next recording in 2 weeks from today's date, we're going to draw the winner on the next episode.
Absolutely.
So you need to get your entries in prior to May the 8th.
That's correct. So, Mike, Larry was teasing us here with somebody's grandfather.
That's Michael, by the way. Michael is his author name.
Mike is my podcast name.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd hide too if I were you.
So, Michael, tell us the story that Larry was hinting at.
Okay, so when I do my lecture, I talk about 15 different stories throughout military history of enemy Masons saving each other when they're about to lose their life. So story number 11 takes us to World War II. And I'm going to read this story for you. It's about a German officer freeing U.S. soldiers. This came from Brother Jason Daly, and it goes as the following. A brother at a lodge I visited told me about his grandfather, who was a World War II vet, and how he and another soldier had been captured by the Germans. They were placed on their knees to be executed. He was about to get shot, and I gave the words of distress, as well as the man next to him, and their lives were spared by an officer. They were taken aside by the German officer, who asked them how they knew the words, and they told him they were Masons. Under the dark of night, they were fed a hearty meal in a small room and taken to a spot where they could escape easily without capture. The irony, of course, is that Freemasonry was banned in Germany, and the German officer was also a Mason, but his life was spared from concentration camps or execution because his name was not on a list. So that story right there is the essence of my lecture. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how I took that true story and then how I brought it into fiction, into my third novel, Skull of Disguises. So again, grabbing that research, but then kind of twisting it a little to fit my characters. And I'm going to do a reading from Skull of Disguises. And this is the one character who's talking. His name is Duff Pappy Greenhall, and he's a Prince Hall Mason. Okay. He's at this time, he's a 90-something year old World War II vet living on Sapelo Island. And he's talking about how his life was saved in Germany when he fought in World War II as a Buffalo soldier, a black soldier fighting in northern Italy. Okay, so here's the reading from the book. I was wounded, Duff said, pointing to his knee. Was shot in my kneecap, could hardly walk. Was trying to escape, and this old German soldier captures me crawling out of a burning cellar, sees my condition, and is going to off me right there. Puts me against the wall and aims his rifle at me. I put my hands up and pray. He doesn't shoot. He grabs my hand and looks at my ring. Recognized me as a Freemason from my ring and pats his chest to tell me he's one too. Duff raised his hand and showed Jake and Sammy his scratched up gold Masonic ring with the square and compasses symbol. That old veteran soldier done looked around to make sure no one saw him, gave me a drink of water, put his fingers to his lips, and then I'll never forget it. Tipped his head and whispered, Schnell. It means go. He let me go. He let me go, and I made it back to our lines. I survived, all because of our fraternity. It doesn't matter our ideologies or our loyalties to any army or the damn color of my skin. It was because of pure brotherly love of a man about to lose his life. That old soldier defied Nazi orders to not take any black prisoners, but he saved another man's life, mine, mercy. Praise be to God, he showed me mercy.
Wow.
And so that's a powerful excerpt that goes to the heart of all these books of how, one Mason is going to help another Mason out. And in this case, taking true history and interweaving it into fiction.
So your 15 stories that you tell in your talk, if you haven't already, you really should put those in a short book that you can market.
Well, it's funny. I started off with 10 or 12 stories, and I started doing the lectures, and brothers took me aside, or they emailed me, and they started telling me other stories, and now it's up to 15. And this is how, I go to lodges. I'm kind of giving back to lodges from my experience as a Mason and providing educational programs where these lodges need this type of stuff. This is what brothers clamor for. And they come up to me afterwards and they, this is what we want. We want this kind of history. We want to learn from what happened with other Masons back in time.
We want this history, but we want this future too. We want this to happen today. We hear about it 25 years ago, 50 years ago, 75 years ago, 150, 200 years ago. Mm-hmm. We don't hear about it today. Where is it?
Well, I have some experiences, but they're kind of lower on are you okay to drive home? Kind of things. So, yeah, I mean, it does happen, just not as highbrow.
Maybe.
Cleaning out your
car. Those are the stories that are the soul of this fraternity.
Exactly.
And bless you for passing those stories on, because we need to get back to where it means that much to be a brother, and that there are so many brothers that there's a chance that if you ever find yourself in that position, you would consider it your duty.
Yes, yeah, and that's your obligation. That's your man-to-man oath. That's
right.
That's that's what makes Masonry, this fraternity, so cohesive and so powerful to last 300 plus years, right? When you've seen governments and nations come and go, and regime changes, but you always have the Masons to rely on. It's funny. You're only supposed to use the grand hail sign of distress or the words, or, show your tattoo or show your ring when you're really, really distressed, when you're maybe about to lose your life and lose everything that matters to you. And these are the stories that encompass that. And, you see some of the stuff on the internet, how some Mason, throws up a internet hail of distress because he lost his job. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? It's like, that's like, go on welfare if you need money. Go on a training program. Go to your local church. There's all these safety nets of society before you go and ask for a Masonic GoFundMe campaign just because you lost your job. It's like, fuck up, buddy. This is the wrong use of the hail sign.
Bam.
Now we're with you, and that's like in Pennsylvania, we kind of just officially instituted an almoners program a few years ago, and that's a thing that the local Chet lodges are having some challenges with. The men that are really in need don't ask, and then when somebody does ask, I'm sure it's important to them, but it puts everybody in an awkward position. Like you don't want to be a jerk and not help, but how do you determine who to help? Yeah, if we kept things on a real life or death, it'd be a lot easier.
Well, and I think also it requires us to know our brothers. And because you're right, I mean, they won't ask if they really are in distress. And so it challenges me, at least, to try to know my brothers better so that I can be the one to step forward and say, hey, this person
needs our help,
is in real trouble and needs our help. Because you're right, they won't do that themselves.
And that's a personal thing. That that's your brother. It's supposed to be a personal, private matter. You don't do that over the internet to millions of people. That's abusing it, right? That's just abusing that obligation, in my opinion.
And then the characters in your work use it appropriately at the moment of truth, where they're at that point where their lives are in danger, and they use it for that reason, and they know they don't. In some cases they don't know. He didn't know. In the book, the passage that you just read, he didn't know that was going to matter to the guy who was about to kill him. He said it. He said it because
his hands up. Yeah.
Right. He said it because it's in his heart, and that he knows that he's at the end of his rope, and he's going to say those words because he's at the end of his rope. And it happened that the guy across the way with the gun in his hand knew what those words meant.
Yeah, exactly. And then the very next story, in my lecture is about a Japanese officer, World War II, and he's going down the line, shooting American prisoners in the back of the head, kicking them in a ditch. Okay, bop, 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 right in the skull, kicking them in the ditch. And this was a story from Brother Dan Ledger down in Savannah, and it was told to him from another lodge brother. And that Mason, he had a ring on. There was an American soldier he had a ring on, about to be executed. The Japanese officer, who happened to be a Mason, I didn't know Masonry was in Japan at the time, right? He saw that ring and he angrily took it off and shoved that ring in the soldier's mouth. And then he deliberately shot over his head, kicked the soldier in the back, sent him tumbling into the ditch of dead soldiers, and he left him there. He played dead until nightfall, then successfully made his escape. So,
wow. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So you see how I kind of took the two stories with the ring and the German soldier, and I kind of put them into that scene with Old Duff. So it's just, you don't know when this is going to happen. And they're enemy, right? They're enemy soldiers. They're killing each other. But bam, at some moment, all your loyalties to your government, your army, are put aside, and the Masonic obligation comes out. It's to me personally, it's the most fascinating aspect, and that's what I latched onto when I became a Mason. When I first heard about that story of Joseph Brant in upstate New York, and again from there, I got this whole entire series out of it. So it's pretty.
That's outstanding.
So tell us a little bit more about your journey with the books. When you started this, I guess it was a little bit of a passion project, but obviously you see it growing. You see your audience building. Or how? Yeah,
exactly. It's I tell people in my lecture, these books are my lottery ticket, right? You don't know if they're ever gonna, get big and become, bestseller someday, and a movie's gonna be made out of them. It's really like getting struck by lightning in the book industry. There's so many authors. There's so much competition. It's relatively easy to write a book if you got the talent and the skills. And that's the best part about it. What's tough is marketing to a wide audience, getting to that target audience, because there's so much competition. So I dig into Masonic history. I'm having fun at it. I travel to different places. I interview a lot of people. So I'm out there, experiencing life. Last 5 years with the Map of Thieves book, after that book, I learned all about lost Cherokee gold in the North Georgia mountains. So me and a buddy have been looking for lost Cherokee gold, looking for caves, looking for carvings on rocks. So we're out there having fun, doing some treasure hunting, drinking some moonshine, and experiencing life. So it's a passion, hobby, if you will. And who knows where it's going to go. I'm doing lectures now based on my research on the book. So I'm traveling to different Masonic lodges, meeting a ton of brothers, making new friends. And then they tell me their stories. They pull me aside, and who knows where the next book, the backstory of the next book is going to go based on what another brother tells me.
I'm sorry, Michael. It's my understanding that the gold is actually somewhere between Toccoa and Clarksville or Clayton, Georgia. It's in that vicinity, that triangle.
It could be all over. There's no.
Have you looked there?
All over North Georgia. There's tons of these lost gold stories. It's centered around the Etowah River, which is directly north of Atlanta. But there's different tribes of Cherokee, and they couldn't take their gold with them when they were removed in 1838. So they had to bury it, make carvings, make literally treasure maps, and they were removed out west. And their descendants started coming back in the 1930s, and they came back with these maps in hand. And, Indians started appearing in these communities where the whites had taken over their land generations ago. And based on their carvings on rocks and trees, some of them retrieved their lost gold. And other stories where, locals actually found the stuff. There was a story in 1932 where 3 teenagers found 35 pounds of gold bullion, after they dug underneath a rock. And this is all in the newspapers. So these stories pop up, and you put all the clues together, and we try and go out and try to find lost caves, lost gold mines. It's fun stuff. It's exciting, when you find a carving on a tree and you don't know what it means, and it could lead to some treasure. So I'm actually living what Jake Tanunda does in the books. Looking for lost treasure, and you feel that emotion, that wow moment when you find something.
Wow, that's neat.
So Jake Tanunda, back to Jake, who is a minor character in your first novel, and then
it's also Jack's son's name.
Becomes which is, by the way, an awesome name.
It's my son's name too.
Tanunda, though, is not my son's name. Where did that come from? Where did you?
So Tanunda is totally made up. It's it's based on, it's an Indian name. It's a Seneca Indian name, but it's based on some of the towns up in upstate New York. Like
Tonawanda.
Kind of like Tonawanda.
Right.
And then there was another town called Tunda, I think. So I just completely put together a couple names and came up with Tanunda. And then I had to do like an internet search to make sure no one else had that name. And, I think the only name that popped up was like somewhere in Australia. So who knows?
So my wife told me I should ask you about the cover art. Did you have anything to do with the development of the cover art for these books?
Oh, absolutely. My whole career has been as a graphic designer and illustrator. So I did all the cover art myself. It's all done in Photoshop. All 3 books, I do all the layout. So yeah, Crown of Serpents, that's the silver bust of the legendary Crown of Serpents that Atoharo wore. Map of Thieves, that's the Cherokee Indian knife with the symbols on it. And then you have the raven silhouette, and that refers to the Raven Mocker, which is an evil witch in Cherokee legend. And then, of course, in Skull Disguises, you have the skull with it's called the hoodoo veve on the forehead, and it's a disguise. It could be the Masonic symbols. It also could be double X's, which means double distilled moonshine. And then also it's a hoodoo veve, meaning success in business or commerce. And plus that's against the Nazi swastika. So again, it's the cover has to be strong in these books. You have to capture readers' attention right away with the cover art. It's very important. And then hopefully they'll flip it over and they'll read the synopsis, and then you have them hooked.
Well, it worked for me.
How, if someone wants to get your books, what's the website? What's the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
So especially for Masons, if you want a personalized signed, autographed book, and I'll sign it to your name and your lodge, go to my website, karpovagecreative.com, and you can order the book from there. And that's a large paperback 6x9 book. Or you can go to Amazon, and the books are available in ebook format. You can get the paperback book there, and also audiobooks. Right now, the first 2 books are audiobooks available, and the 3rd book, Skull Disguises, is presently in production. And let me tell you about the audiobooks. It's so much fun hearing my narrator, Mike Jameson. He's out of California, and he's he's an actor, songwriter, and it's so much fun to hear the characters come to life because he'll do different accents. He has to talk like an Indian in one book. He has to talk like a Southerner in another book. He has to talk like a German in another book, and speak like a woman in different scenes, or a young teenager. And this guy pulls it off. And just today I was listening to a chapter, and this is just a very powerful scene, very emotional scene, and my heart was beating when he's doing the narration. I was like, holy crap, man, he nailed it. He nailed that scene. And other scenes, I'm laughing because he hits the humor right on too. So it's so cool hearing your stories come to life in an audio recording.
That's awesome. Well, Michael, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to keep you on the show for a few more minutes, but we're going to take a quick break. We're going to wrap up. Let Jack go to the bathroom. Larry to do the news, or vice versa.
Vice versa.
We'll be right back.
Unlocking Symbols with Symbologist Michelle Snyder.
King Midas Unlocked. Fairy tales, legends, and folklore hold many secrets of times long past. King Midas of the Golden Touch is the story of a greedy king who begged a fairy to give him the ability to turn everything into gold by touching it. This, of course, was a very bad idea, as everything included his food and eventually his daughter. Soon he begged to be released from his affliction and was told to go rinse his hands in a river to wash away the curse. When he did so, everything was restored, including his golden daughter. Today, this tale is told to teach the consequence of greed and the change in values it takes to cure it. To use our golden key on this tale, we must look at the process of electrolytes. Batteries work on this science, a lower element changing into a higher one, for example, tin into silver. As this process takes place, energy is produced. There must be a proper medium between the two elements, and so your car battery needs water. It has been known for a long time that if you can find a stream of water flowing past a gold factory that dumps its production waste into the water, and you put a tin cup in it downstream, your tin cup will soon turn into electrolyte gold. The instruction for Midas to rinse his golden hands in the water of a river alludes to the electrolyte process. Another part of our golden key is history. Midas was said to be an excessively greedy king. This story is based on a real king who lived at a time when gem merchants traveled the land. They were very good at swindling their customers, and the king was angry about it. His wife, the queen, thwarted them by inventing coins. The coins provided a standard with which to weigh the precious gems, and the merchants could no longer swindle the king. They were so angry, they spread rumors about his greed. Stories and symbols are layered through time, like the process of palimpsest, where ink is scraped off an older papyrus and new writing put on, yet shadows of the old ink remain. King Midas is said to have a daughter whom he turned into gold in his greed, but the real King Midas on which this story is based did not have a daughter. Some not-so-pleasant history must be uncovered to see this layer. There was a time when young children, as young as 5, were used in mining. They were smaller and could get into the tighter tunnels. Many died in this process. Once in a while a mine would flood with water, and on at least one occasion the water was laden with gold powder. Centuries later, during excavation of a wall, a young girl was discovered. She was perfect in every detail. Her eyelashes, hair, and clothes, as well as the little basket she held, were preserved as electrolyte gold. This sensational discovery was added to the legend about the greedy king with the golden touch. For more oral tradition unlocked, read Symbology, Fairy Tales Uncovered. Next time, we will talk about magical, mysterious cats.
If you'd like to take a deeper look, be sure to check out Michelle's book, Symbology Revision. A link for purchase can be found on the Freya Foundation website. That's freafoundation.net. While you're there, take a look at some of Michelle's other works and find out more about the Freya Foundation and its mission to research and publish the Ensman archives.
Hey, this is Brother Justin Edling, Valley Lodge number 797 in Valley View, Pennsylvania, and you're listening to the Masonic Lite podcast.
And we're back. Another fun fact, besides the, I kind of alluded to it in the beginning, but you have a background in cartography, and Larry, that means maps.
I know that.
Okay.
I was telling you guys about his maps
I thought
earlier.
It was carts being drugged back up.
No, and it's not about the fish at the bottom of the stream. No, it's not carpography. It's cartography. Anyway, haunted, tell us a little bit about your, we think these are very cool. Tell us a little bit about your work.
So I have a design and publishing firm called Karpovage Creative. I'm a one-man show, and my biggest, the biggest revenue stream that comes into my business is my map illustrations. So I'm hired to do commission map designs for colleges and universities all across the U.S. I've done some up in Canada, Europe, and so these are work for hire, one-off projects. And done some incredible work with some incredible clients. This is a cool story. James Hetfield of Metallica, he had a ranch in California, and he wanted a bird's eye view illustration of his ranch. So I was commissioned to do that job for Metallica's founder, which is pretty damn neat. I've also done a map for the Citadel in Charleston, the military college recently. Wow. And my biggest job to date was just last year. I illustrated Pebble Beach golf resorts out in California. And so if you go to that app, the free app, the Pebble Beach app, and you zoom in, you'll see my map work on the app. And they're doing the U.S. Open this year. And so what's really cool is, we had some things embedded in the map too. Like I was able to put myself in the map and standing on a rock. The director of marketing's there, surfing on a board. Another marketing guy is chipping a golf ball in a hole. I got some hidden wildlife. So there's neat things like that. So in addition to my commission maps, I also have a line of retail tourism maps that I own, that I publish myself. I have the Savannah trilogy of maps. I have a historic district map, a haunted map of Savannah, and then one of Bonaventure Cemetery. And also last year I came out with a map of Charleston, South Carolina, their historic district as well. So these maps are chock full of history, and they're illustrated in a bird's eye view perspective, as if you're up in a hot air balloon. They're very colorful. Tourists love them. They're bestsellers on Amazon. So I love doing the maps and incorporating history and illustration into these designs.
That's really cool. I'm a failed artist, and Larry's a failed author. So we really appreciate you succeeding at both.
Thank you so much. Like I said, it's a lottery, Larry. You never know if you're going to hit it big with the books, but it's fun doing them.
What Pete doesn't know is you and I have had extensive conversations about marketing, selling, writing, and so forth. But I didn't bring that into that because...
Well, Larry, one of the things you need to do is finish the second book.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Then you can worry about selling it.
All right.
Michael, thank you so much. Did you have something else you wanted to say? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it's like I've had movie producers and directors contact me over the years. They feel these books they make a great movie. Indiana Jones meets The Godfather. That's kind of the reviews I get, and it's flattering. But I've learned that through the half dozen producers and directors that contact me, I stay grounded. Because it's fallen through. It's all a matter of raising funds and capital investment to produce these movies. So it's very, very difficult,
But and I hope you take this as a compliment. That's my intention. Reading the book, I could feel like I'm watching a I don't know, like not an Amazon or Netflix series. Like I almost can like block it up into like hour segments for a TV show.
Yeah, and that's intentional. This genre of the mystery thriller action adventure, there's a certain infrastructure to writing these books. So you'll see that I try to leave every chapter as a cliffhanger, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go to another chapter and you have a different character's point of view. So you might have Jake Tanunda's point of view in one chapter. Then you switch over to the villain's point of view. And so, you have to think in their minds. And so you use wording that is associated with, say, that villain or his thoughts, right? And so, the scenes are set up like movie scenes. Like I'll set this scene in the beginning of the chapter. I'll just kind of describe the setting, and then the movie plays out in your mind. And that's the beauty of reading a book, is every reader has a different movie in their mind.
Wow. So folks, fans, definitely go to Karpovage. Sorry.
Let me help you.
Go with the website.
KarpovageCreative.com.
Yes. KarpovageCreative.com.
That's Karpovage with a K, by the way.
Yes.
And check these books out. It's you're really going to enjoy. I think I read Crown of Serpents in like 4 sittings. Like it's like I sat down, I got sucked in for 3 hours, and
it's a roller coaster. It absolutely is. Yeah, it was a great read.
Excellent. Glad to hear that, brothers.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you putting up with us through all of our technological difficulties.
All right, raise your glasses. Fire the cannon.
Coffee cups.
My coffee cup of Diet Coke.
Thank you so much, brothers. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we wish you all the success in the world.
Good news, everyone!
Masonic Lite News. News not fit to print.
In Masonic News today, in a fantastic conflagration of fire and history, the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris was gutted by fire last week. It is believed the fire started in an area undergoing reconstruction and spread quickly to the wooden support structure which held the ceiling of this once great monument. After the fire was extinguished, inspectors were quick to identify that 2 of the 3 stained glass rose windows survived, as did nearly all of the iconic stonework that had stood for nearly 900 years, while nearly all of the supporting timbers were reduced to ash. Area masons were quick to point out that their work stood the test of time, while the carpenters, not so much. That's the Masonic News. So Quasimodo it was.
Like unto the Sidonians.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Too
So let's wrap this show up. Jack, what do you got going on Masonically the next couple of weeks?
Well, I've got Grotto on Sunday, and after that, I probably won't remember.
But a great program coming up, which will be just the day before this podcast comes out.
Yes.
Whiskey with and without the E.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do I have coming up? I have, I guess the big thing is the Wildwood, the Tall Cedars of Lebanon. Every year we have our convention in Wildwood, New Jersey. I put myself in charge of booking everything for Lancaster and York Forests. We have, at this point, 15 rooms booked in a motel. And I think York Forest, they do a lot of work with the youth group. So York Forest is getting 4 rooms for the youth. So each with 4 kids. So they're bringing 20 Jobies and D. Malay down. What could go wrong?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Now, it's going to be a good time. And we kind of enter the slow time for Cedars because it's convention, then picnics and picnics and picnics and picnics.
And then strawberry nights all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's kind of slow.
So I gotta before you end, Pete, I just gotta bring this up. There's a whole array of stuff in front of you right now. There's a giant container of Tic Tacs.
Tic Tac orange.
Mm-hmm. Tic Tac orange. Mentos gum. Dum lollipop sucker things, whatever the heck those are. Diet Coke and flossing sticks.
Yes, oral health is very important. When you're putting this much sugar into your body, you want to make sure you keep your teeth clean.
But there's no insulin in sight. I don't understand.
You never know what you're going to get on the Masonic Lite.
Well, if I've learned one thing in this past week, don't have low blood sugar.
That's correct.
Because crap
We're just
happens.
going to stop that there.
Oh, no.
Come on,
do it. Say
let me get control of this here. Josh, what do you got going on Masonically?
I've got a district deputy grand master meeting coming up, visitation. So
sounds like a blast.
and Larry will be there, of course.
Yeah, make sure your secretary has his books in order.
What?
That's good.
I'm on hiatus. I'm not coming back till June.
Okay.
That's strawberry night.
I'll be back for strawberry night.
All right.
All right. So quasi-Masonically, a number of us from the Cigar Lodge have tickets to the Cigar Fest that's coming up on May 3rd and 4th at Cigars International. So if any of you are there and happen to bump into us, make sure you check me out, and we'll get a tag posted.
You know, it'd be nice,
podcast.
Tim.
Yeah.
As many plugs as you give Cigar International, if they could maybe drop us.
I was going to say we should. I'm pushing to get them to be a sponsor. So
Yeah, you ought to be. Yeah, you're right.
anyway,
they can pay in cigars.
Exactly. Well, that's true. They could. I realize that our next guest will talk a little bit more about this, but on the 17th and 18th of May is the Valley of Harrisburg Spring Reunion. So it's not too soon to plan your trip there. And if you need any of the Scottish Rite degrees, check the website. Make your plans to attend the Scottish Rite reunion in Harrisburg on the 17th and 18th of May.
Bring your cold weather gear.
Bring your cold weather gear. That's right. All right, Larry, take us out of here. Start by telling us if you've got anything other than Strawberry Night coming up, and then take us out of here.
I have nothing coming up, no.
All right. So cue the chickens.
A special thanks to Ephrata Lodge 665 for allowing us to have our beautiful studio in the basement below the liquor store. Also to our producer, Josh. I will say Lamberton because that's his Facebook name. To our director of news, Jack Harley. To our marketing guru, Tim Dedman. And also... Guru. Also, our 401k statement analyst, Dowson Burnham. Our business forecaster, Luigi Board. And our complaint line operator, who we have been getting some complaints for. Our complaint operator, leave on hold. And our corporate spokesman, Hugh Lion Sack.
Is he French? Lion Suck.
This is Larry. Good night. Thanks for listening.
And Jack.
Michael Karpovage. Pete Ruggieri.
Oh, wait.
And Josh.
And this is Tim Dedman. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.